Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 40 of Neuroshambles. Lovely as always to have you back again. I didn't know how many listeners we might lose after the last episode, which was relatively ranty, I think, but it seems to have been pretty well received. I had some really lovely messages in response to the Tackling Ignorance Part 1 episode. One in particular from Chrissy made me smile. She wrote in to say, I'm running errands and listening to the newest Neuroshambles, 19 minutes in, and I've already snort laughed in co-op and spit coffee laughed walking down the street, which is quite the endorsement of the episode. It's lovely to hear that kind of thing. To be honest, not all the feedback has been positive. There has been some pushback on the socials in response to the video I put out there on the insane comment that we should make their home lives more unpleasant. So someone had watched that entire clip that I put there about Jay fancying his chances with a tiger, and his response was, take their phones and gaming systems off them. If you make them do household chores, they'd all go to school, which it seems like he's entirely missed the point. It's almost like his mind was made up and it didn't matter what the clip was about. He was just going to have a rant anyway. So thanks for the response. Anyway, I can safely put you in the Sheila column of respondees. Anyway, we'll move on from that because we've got lots more of that nonsense coming up. So strap in and prepare yourselves. We're also going to be having some Neurodiversity Champions, tiny epic wins, and what the flip moments as well. So let's get cracking.
Meet the guest.
So this week's guest is a firm fan favourite on Neuroshambles. It is the return of the wonderful Joe Matthews. How are you doing, Joe?
I am great. Looking forward to this. Just let's see what else you can hit me with.
Exactly. Obviously, you know, people are familiar with your setup if they've listened to the previous episode. If they haven't, then let's just do a quick whistle-stop tour of the neurodivergency in your household.
So in my house, I am the very, very proud parent of two young adults. George is 21 and Dottie is 18. Both are autistic. My husband and we both think we're probably autistic, but have never actually been diagnosed. And we're a very happy household.
Awesome. I should probably, at this point, just, you know, it's always good to check in with my lot as well and just let people know the neurodivergencies in my setup. So Jay is diagnosed autistic ADHD. He is 12. Otto is 10, and he is also diagnosed autistic ADHD, but with a very different profile from Jay.
Yes.
So I'd say that Jay is explosive. Otto is implosive, I think is the best way of describing that. And then India is very recently diagnosed autistic and even more recently now diagnosed ADHD as well. So I've got the clean sweep.
You've got the hat trick.
I've got the hat trick. 100% hit rate of autistic ADHD kids.
Amazing.
And then
congratulations.
Thank you. I've worked really hard. And their mum Tam is also late diagnosed autistic ADHD. So
and you're just there in the middle of it.
I don't know what I am. I'm just, you know,
mainly bewildered, Mark.
Bewildered, yes.
Mainly bewildered.
But in terms of my neurotype, suspected neurotypical. That's it. I'm just going with that for now. Okay. Let's stop dallying and crack on with the.
Let us dally no more.
What's the topic of the week?
So this week's topic of the week is a continuation of the last episode we did on tackling ignorance because, frankly, we ran out of time to cover all of the suggestions that people sent in. So we thought we'd roll it over into another episode because there is simply too much ignorance out there to be tackled in a single episode of Neuroshambles. So we're going to be picking up where we left off to look at some of the ill-informed things that people say to parents of neurodivergent kids. So in the last episode, we looked at a lot of cases of parent blaming or blaming the child, sometimes a giddy mixture of both of those things if they are really going for it. So today we're going to be looking at some of the other slightly different but still insanely unenlightened utterances that people have been subject to over the years. Are you ready, Joe?
I am so ready.
Let's do this. So
Go.
Another umbrella category that these comments fall under is what I've termed practical guidance from the clueless. Right? These people, have you thought about this? Or I've heard about this. And, like with the implication that you don't really know what you're doing and that they probably do.
Yes.
So one of the ones that someone sent in was, have you tried a routine?
Wow.
Well, yeah.
What? We didn't think of that. Amazing.
So they've sat there from afar and watched your parenting and gone, I reckon there's a lack of routine here. So again, it's parent blaming to a degree that's basically suggesting that you've not already tried routine. Like you just live in some kind of laissez-faire fun house.
To be fair, anyone who saw my family out in public when the kids were younger would have been quite justified in thinking that it was an absolute shit show at all times.
Yeah, but this is a tricky one, I guess, depending on how your kid's neurodivergency presents itself. Yes. Because there are different profiles, right? So if your child is just, pure autistic, solid, gold standard autistic, with none of the other, co-occurring conditions, none of this ADHD or PDA nonsense attached to it, then I think routine is really important. Yes. And they thrive on that and they need that. But as we know, there's all kinds of other factors at play for a lot of our neurodivergent kids. So as I say, if they have PDA, so if you're listening to this and you don't know what PDA is, because we mention it a lot, pathological demand avoidance, or as I prefer the term, pervasive desire for autonomy, basically they need novelty. A routine bores them. So you can't do the same thing every time because they're not comforted by that. If anything, they're irritated by it. Certainly with Jay and India. I think Otto needs a bit more routine. Yeah.
But it's that suggestion that, we hadn't thought of that. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, routine. Oh, wow, thanks, I'm cured.
Yeah.
Have you tried shutting the fuck up?
I mean, again, it's people who... Yes, it's this idea that you've not actually done much research into it. Yes. They've done a quick Google and gone, I know what works, as if we haven't Googled. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
As if we might not have thought of that at some point along the way.
Google in business, man. The amount of Googling that parents of neurodivergent kids have done over the years. So the idea that we've not thought about it, they've Googled it and gone, what helps autism? Oh, routine, great. It's like, dude, there's so much more going on with mine. And again, ADHD is another of those co-occurring conditions that almost is at odds with the autism. Yes. So if you've got an ADHD kid, as I have 3 of them, right? And Tam is also ADHD. It's a really interesting mix. And Tam was able to articulate this a little bit more in that Tam's autism means that they need routine and consistency and they don't like surprises and they need to plan things. But their ADHD means that they get bored really easily.
Right. So need novelty.
And so those two neurotypes are at odds with each other a lot of the time, I think.
It's like... I've heard it described as like a constant battle going on in your own brain with your two distinct neurotypes battling each other for supremacy and how we're going to live our life. And it must be torture. It must be so difficult.
Yeah, because you can't win, right? Because you're either your autistic side wins and you get the routine you're craving for, or your ADHD side wins and you get the novelty you're craving. But I don't know how you find something in the middle.
No.
I mean, the thing is, my kids do have a routine, but it's only one of the things that helps. You've got to be able to deviate from it. And again, it's a situation by situation basis, right? And it's what they're able to cope with. And as you're saying with your kids, to the outside world looking in, it doesn't look like there's much routine there.
No.
But there's something. There's something in
Yes,
place.
there's a basic structure in place. And I always said to people, look, I secretly know what I'm doing. Thanks.
That's a good response. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably a little bit like improv, right?
Yes.
It's like improv comedy because you have the sort of an improv exercise where you broadly know how you start the scene and how you end the scene, and maybe a touch point in the middle, and everything else is just pretty free form.
Just be
And
ready.
I think that's probably the best way of approaching parenting ADHD kids or PDA kids is
Yes.
broadly you've got this amount of time scheduled to do this thing, but how we get there is anyone's guess.
Yes. And what happens in between could be absolutely anything, and you just go with it. It's that improv thing, isn't it? Yes, and. That's what they say,
Yeah,
isn't it? You're
yeah.
meant to go, yes, and.
Yeah,
So,
and it's not easy, and you've got to practice and hone your skills at it. But I think that's the way that you get the most amount of fun out of a given situation when you've got neurodivergent little ones.
Absolutely.
Okay, another one that someone posted was someone said to them, "How about a parenting course?" Oh my god!
Oh my God!
But well, I mean, the judgment from that statement, dude. Again, blaming the parenting, but also suggesting you have no idea what you're doing, do you?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if we're honest, no, we don't.
No, not really. And sadly, in the work I do with parents, so many have been sent off to do, I think it's Triple P,
Yeah.
which actually is a really good course for neurotypical kids.
Yeah.
Simply not applicable to what we're dealing with.
I will put my hands up and say I went on that course.
Yeah.
Me and Tam went on it just so we could say, look, we've been on your fucking course. It's not helping.
Yeah.
Because we knew they'd be like, well, have you tried this? Well, they're
Have
not
you
helping
tried-
themselves. It's like, no, we really are. So yeah, that, as you say, we went on that course. Tam went on the course first and basically just sort of asked questions at the end, and they were like, yeah, this isn't for you. Is it?
You're off the
Like,
charts.
no, your kids
Yeah.
are not. No, this is a different template of child you're dealing with. So people suggesting the parenting course is, well, yeah, I guess. Well, I can say, yeah, I did a parenting course, and I broke the tutor.
You broke. It's like the final boss on a video game. Yes.
So, but yeah, that's a horrible thing to hear, though, isn't it? For someone to
Isn't
say
it?
that to you, because again, it's that judgment and the implication that you're not able to parent without
Yes.
being told how to parent, and that is, as I say, to a degree, true, because we have to write the rules ourselves. We have to make stuff up as we go along, and to be honest, we're the people that can give the course now, but only for our own kids.
Yes, this is it, because you can't then transfer even within your own family. Your parenting course for child A completely not applicable to child
exactly.
B. It's not going to work. Yes, no, they can take their parenting courses and stick them where the sun don't shine, because no.
Okay, another one that you get of people trying to help, and they've obviously done a quick Google, or they've heard something and went, oh, this applies to that person I know who has neurodivergency in their family, is ADHD can be managed by a change in diet. Or have you tried changing their diet? I've heard cutting out gluten, sugar, delete as applicable, can really help. Or I think it's all to do with diet these days. Too much sugar. 3 that people sent in, and it's all based on this absolute nonsense, I think. I mean, it is.
I mean, the whole gluten-free thing, that's quite popular, isn't it?
What? As a potential cure for neurodivergency?
Well,
Just to be clear, you can't cure neurodivergency.
Yeah,
just,
and also if you want to, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Yeah, it's true. There's
Go
probably
and listen to something else.
Yeah.
Because you won't find a cure
Yeah.
here, my friend. This is, it's really popular, gluten-free, casein-free, and I think casein is like milk products.
Right.
And the thinking is that it somehow reduces anxiety. So it's not touted as a cure, but it's touted as something that will reduce symptoms.
Right. But I mean, the anxiety that neurodivergent kids feel, if you're going to have a league table of things that cause anxiety,
I know,
milk
right?
is pretty fucking low down. it's like noise and crowds and unexpected requests and
It's
milk.
It's this wackadoodle notion that the gut barrier in autistic people is somehow less effective than in neurotypicals, and that gluten and casein then affect brains. But I'm quite science. There is zero, and I mean zero, evidence that it actually works.
I mean, it sounds like such quackery that I didn't even really do much research into it. So,
No.
I mean, I would have thought if there was some broad consensus, scientific consensus, it would have been a little bit more prevalent in media rather than just someone pulling you to one side at a soft play and suggesting that you cut out the biscuits.
So also, we are dealing with children and young people who will have a very, very limited diet by
that was
nature.
a point I was going to make, yeah.
I'm going to show you this.
There?
This is
this your meal plan for the week?
This is things will eat.
Yes, okay. So if you take gluten and sugar out of that,
Yeah.
how many are you left with?
I mean, nugs, are there... Is there gluten in chicken nuggets, Doctor?
Probably.
Meal deals, she'll eat a meal deal. Pizza,
The meal deal's got gluten in.
Has it? Oh, bum. Give me an egg if you want death. And then she's added a dash and put, or cheese. So...
Yeah, okay.
My advice would be, and I'm no expert on dietary, but if you are dealing with a child who has a really restricted diet, don't cut loads of stuff out of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Insane.
Like, my kids eat, well, certainly Jay, he eats a limited diet as it is. So if I took out gluten and sugar, I've got cucumber. That's it. That's all I'm left with. And that is essentially the diet of a slug.
Yes. Well, I mean, slugs seem to be quite happy, Mark. They
It's
seem
true.
to thrive.
And weirdly, they don't seem neurodivergent. So
I've
maybe
never seen an autistic.
maybe there's some truth to it. Okay, another one that I had someone email in was, this is a lovely one, that's something they were told in public. Why don't you take the screen away so you can talk to each other? This is in a cafe, right? Someone came over, decided they were going to stick their oar in, obviously offended by the fact that the kids were on the screen, and thought that the problem with their family was that they don't talk to each other.
Oh my
And obviously
God.
the person emailing this said, our very presence there is dependent on the use of this screen.
Yes.
Yes. We have to face the fact that in public, they've got enough to deal with, right? And a lot of the time when all of that overwhelm is going on, our kids don't want to talk to us.
No.
There's time and a place for that. We can do that at home. We can do that in the car, or we can do that not at all if they're too overwhelmed. Let's not force them to make chit chat in a place that they're already pretty fizzy in.
It's the idea that if you just take their screen away, they're going to sit up, look you directly in the eye and go, hello, mummy, are you enjoying your cheese sandwich?
I prefer the Gouda, mummy. What's your preference? You're not going to get the quality of conversation that person is anticipating.
No. And I think there's a whole podcast around screens, but
Yes,
essentially a lot of neurodivergent kids are using their screens to regulate. Don't take them away. Don't limit their time.
Yeah.
Just let them regulate, for God's sake.
To be honest, my approach really is to not put them into social situations where they would need screens to regulate. I think, that's just, but that's mainly because I don't want to have to deal with it. Like if I'm taking them to a cafe and I know they're going to be fizzy and I know I have to bring screens, it's like, I'd rather not. Do you know what I mean? Just so I can have a bacon sandwich in public. I could do that at home and then not have the issue, right? So I tend to avoid that. And I know that that's not necessarily the best approach, I think. I think Tammy's better at taking them to things that are slightly more challenging to their comfort zone. But I don't think we use screens for that. I just think...
Yeah.
So people sort of chipping in and deciding that they're telling us how
That's
what
the
we need to do with
issue.
screens. I can tell you what to do with your screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
Yeah.
What's the response to that? Why don't you take your screen away so you can talk to each other?
Why don't you go and sit the fuck back down and mind your own business?
Yeah.
But this is
Straight
why
to
I've
the
only
point.
got one friend. Let's keep remembering this is someone who has one friend.
Another of the comments that people have emailed in revolve around this sort of notion that there is sort of a ranking of autism, right? So you get them saying something like, does he have it mildly then? Or how severe is it? Was another one that I got. And it's, I understand that there are different presentations of autism. And that's confusing to some people because obviously some kids are non-verbal. Some kids are hyperverbal. Some kids are PDA, so appear to be neurotypical when there's a lot more going on there. It's really hard for people to understand it, and so they feel like they need to put a handle on how severe it is.
So they can categorise.
Yeah,
who
so
is
they can go,
this
what?
child? What is
I don't know what you're
am
going to
I
do with
dealing
that category. Yeah, how is that going to make you respond differently to the child? I guess. I don't know. But saying it's mild autism, is it mild autism? Is diminishing their experience a huge amount?
And also, Mark, let us not forget that the suggestion of mild autism by implication means that there is spicy autism.
Yeah. Yeah, true. All
I mean,
autism is spicy, dude.
That's my go-to response. No, it's not mild, very spicy.
Yeah.
Extremely spicy autism here.
One thing that I heard someone say, which kind of resonated a lot, really, is that mild and calling it mild is really only indicative of how you experience their autism, not how they're experiencing it. So there might be all kinds of stuff going on under the surface that you're not aware of, that they're having to deal with, of trying to regulate themselves and not be overwhelmed. But calling it mild is hugely disrespectful and hugely underplays what these kids are going through on a daily basis.
It's about the idea that a child who has mild autism will present in a way that makes neurotypical people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And for me and for my kids, we're not about making neurotypicals feel comfortable. We're about
the opposite, if anything.
Well, we're about authentic expression.
Yes, yeah.
So that's where the need to categorise comes from, isn't it? Can I feel comfortable with this person because I can pigeonhole their experience and therefore how I respond?
That's interesting. Yeah. So mild is actually really to what degree can they mask as a neurotypical?
Yes. Yeah.
Basically, can I interact with them as a neurotypical, regardless of all of the overwhelm that causes them, so that I can go about my business
and
without
then I
feeling
can
awkward.
feel okay.
And a similar vein is are they high functioning as well?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I understand why people do it. Like, I understand why they need to pigeonhole. In America, they've got levels, don't they? They've got level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I'm torn on it because I think it is it helpful? I don't know.
I think there needs to be, because within my wider family, we have very much loved young people who are what would be described as severely autistic.
Yeah, okay.
And their experiences and their parents' experiences are wildly different to mine and my kids. So it's around the language, isn't it? Because to suggest that someone is high functioning or low functioning, again, doesn't describe what's going on
No.
for that individual.
Yeah.
Doesn't even touch on the struggles they are going through every day just to get out of the front door and present in a way that's acceptable to the outside world.
Yes. And what's functioning? What do you count as functioning? Like,
Exactly.
because, you might have some kids who are not very sociable, don't want to socialise, don't want to communicate verbally, but they might be really smart and, and just have very specific skill sets that... It's so reductive, isn't it? It's basically, do they pass as a neurotypical?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do I feel comfortable? Do they pass? Or can I put them in this other box where I can tilt my head to one side and go, oh, they're severely autistic?
Yeah.
And neither is helpful.
It is a tricky one because I think what they're trying to get a handle on how to interact with them, maybe, or just to get a sense if they've not met them. Because again, I come back to this point a few times in this podcast of the word autism is so broad
Yes.
that
Yeah.
it doesn't give you any indication of the actual person. So
Yes.
if I was to say, my mate's come in, he's autistic, you wouldn't know what to expect. That doesn't give you much information to go on, other than that, just let some shit slide.
Just be a bit patient.
Yeah.
But yes, and maybe it's a normal human urge to categorise each other and to want to know, where does this person fit in the social structures that exist?
Yes.
I don't know, Mark, we've gone deep. Whew.
Yeah, it's one that I might do a separate episode about, because there's a lot to unpack
Yeah.
there, I think. There's a similar one that a friend of mine emailed in, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful display of just absolute stupidity in the wild, right? Okay. And this is verbatim what she emailed in. A teacher said to my autistic daughter while I was standing next to her, "I teach 2 autistic children, but you have the good autism, don't you?"
What?
The good autism.
The good autism.
As opposed to the bad autism. And then you pan round to the person with bad autism holding a flick knife.
Yeah.
Just looking really mean. He's got a leather jacket on and smoking a cigarette. I'm the bad autistic. What the fuck does that mean?
I don't. Well, it means you've got the autism that makes me, the neurotypical, feel comfortable.
Exactly.
And that other autism, I don't want to be dealing with that. That
it's
makes
tricky.
me uncomfortable.
But basically high masking, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
You're high masking. That other kid, he doesn't give a fuck.
But I think you'll probably see this in Otto as well. For me, my 2, George was very much bad autistic. If he'd had access to a flick knife, God help us all. As it was, he bit everyone in reception class,
okay.
called his teacher a bastard crap. He was off the charts.
Bad autistic.
Bad autistic. Dottie was the little girl in the corner crying. And actually, of the 2, Dottie was the one who was struggling in school.
Yeah.
But because it didn't cause him any problems, she was the good autistic. Look
Yeah,
at her over
you're
there,
right.
just crying quietly.
And
Isn't
that is the
good?
difference between Otto and Jay. And Jay is
Yes.
the bad autistic.
Jay is
He will let it be known.
I love him, but dear God.
He says it as he sees it, right?
Exactly.
Whereas Otto will swallow it down and be
He'll
overwhelmed by it and
internalise it.
internalise it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the response to good autism. I mean, dude.
Just what you
Yeah,
say.
no, I just have the autism that makes you feel comfortable, more comfortable.
Yes, yeah.
Or
I have the autism that, you feel all right being around.
Yeah, you don't have to make as many accommodations. But, just be aware that in that situation, my daughter is the one making the accommodations, so you don't have to.
Yes.
That's what you mean. And I would argue, that the bad autism, that so ridiculous. I would argue that the bad autism is much healthier for the child.
Yeah, because they're externalising their feelings.
And they're not being forced to do stuff that they don't want to do. I mean, they will fight tooth and nail to stop that happening, and that's what's perceived as bad, but at least they're advocating for themselves.
Yes, albeit by throwing chairs at teachers. But hey,
Swearing.
You advocate away, son. Proud of you.
Another sort of umbrella category of ignorant things that people have said is when they undermine neurodivergency. So they diminish its value sometimes. So, for example...
I know what you're going to say, and I'm already
there's
cringing.
There's a couple, right? The one that by far and away the most responses I got from listeners of Neuroshambles are the ones along the lines of, we're all on the spectrum. So I've got... We're all on the spectrum. We're all a little bit on the spectrum, aren't we? We've all got a touch of the tism. Everyone's a little bit on the spectrum. We're all a bit autistic, though, aren't we? This one, for me, is one of the most frustrating because you've really got to steel yourself to respond in an appropriate way. Because, of course, there are similarities between neurodivergents and neurotypicals because they're still human.
Yeah.
Like, we're not different species.
And I think it's a comment that, by and large, is coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of, we're all humans. I can accept, understand, and love people because we're all the same.
Yes.
So it's well-meaning.
Yes.
But it's so flipping.
It's just factually incorrect as well.
Yes.
Not everybody is neurodivergent, hence the word divergent in that, right? Okay, it's divergent from the typical. Like you say, it's coming from a place of empathy that they don't want you to feel bad, right? Because very often it's if they see you having, you know, a rocky time with your child in public. I've had that before. Or if your child is just very obviously different from their child and you sort of explain it, then they might say that. And it's from a place of trying to empathize and to say, well, you know, we're similar. But in doing that, it's so much worse. Because
it diminishes the experience.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, you're right. It completely diminishes the experience that your kids are having. And I think it's a misunderstanding of the severity of what our kids experience. So there is a grain of truth to what they say, right? And that truth is that if you look at the profile, right, they say that our kids have a spiky profile, right? And that is that there are lots of different things that all humans experience, but that they find more overwhelming or more triggering than other people. And neurotypicals can also experience a little bit of anxiety around certain things. So they might not like crowds, for example, or they might not like bright lights or loud noises, or they might feel anxious or restless, or they might be stuck in their ways and not like change. But crucially, for them, the anxiety will be relatively shallow. And also it would be maybe one or two of these things. It's not loads of them at the same time, and it doesn't completely overwhelm them. Yeah. And I don't know how you explain that to them without going into that level of detail.
What I tend to do, and again, just the usual caveat.
Yeah.
I'm obnoxious. But I tend to say to people, well, okay, look, I wear glasses. I'm, 53, I need glasses now. I would not dream of saying to someone who is registered blind, oh, well, we're all a little bit blind, aren't we? You see?
I love that. What a great analogy. Yeah.
Because my experience of having to wear glasses is completely different from an actual blind person's experience of navigating the world. So I wouldn't dream. So why do people think it's okay to say we're all a little bit autistic?
Yeah, and this is one of the ones where you, again, as we said in the previous episode, you have to weigh up whether it's worth taking the time to go into all of this analogy. And sometimes I do, like I go into the depth of analogy that I kind of used earlier. But sometimes I'm just I just say no. I mean, no, I'd never agree with them. I never agree. I just kind of go, no, their brain is wired very differently, and it's scientifically proven that their neurotype is separate to neurotypicals.
Oh, you're good.
But they tend to not want to follow that up then.
No.
Because, I haven't actually given this any thought, and you definitely have, so I'm just going to
shut up. Which, again, end result. You've got the end result you wanted.
Yeah.
We just both get there different ways.
Yeah. So it's simply just saying, no, we're not all autistic, Sheila. No, let's not bring Sheila.
Oh, Sheila, Sheila is not welcome in this space.
Sheila was in the last episode, was used as a totem for the frustrating comments that we receive. I think we need to go for a male totem this time.
Yeah.
Bernard.
Bernard.
Okay. No, we're not all autistic, Bernard. It's a completely different neurotype, which means that their brains are wired differently. There's plenty of research out there if you want to educate yourself more on it. There you go. Just encapsulate it like, I'm not going to do it because I don't have the spoons, Bernard. But you crack on, dude. Another one that someone sent in is that ADHD is just an excuse.
Oh dear God.
Just again, it's an excuse for what? Basically, it's them assuming that because you have a diagnosis, you're then using that to justify behaviour that, crucially, that person finds unacceptable.
Yes.
So if you're doing something that they're like, "Oh, this will not do," but you go, "Look, I'm autistic." They're like, it's just an excuse. It's like,
You're
no.
just making excuses.
No, it's not an excuse. It's a context, right?
Yeah.
I am contextualizing my behavior in a way that you might shift the way you perceive it, right?
Yes.
And this is where the perception of naughtiness comes in, I think, sometimes, where they will say it's an excuse because it's an excuse for naughtiness, right? It's an excuse for behavior that I disagree with. And it's important to have that diagnosis or that label, as some people say, but it's important to have that so that you can go, oh right, so they can't help having excess energy. They can't help not being able to sit down while I lecture them on European health and safety legislation or whatever it is, right? It's the fact they say it's an excuse means they just don't get it.
No, and they're willfully ignorant. Like you said just now, we live in an age where all of the information ever known to man is available in the palm of our hands, in our phones, and to say it's just an excuse, where's their excuse for not having taken 2 minutes to just find out? Just Google, how might ADHD be playing into this child's behaviour?
Yes.
And it's exhausting, isn't it?
It is, because again, it sort of falls on you to be the person that educates them, and very rarely do we have the time and the effort and the willpower and the patience to do that.
And again, those analogies with visible disabilities are helpful, because when I've been embroiled in many, many, many arguments and discussions with educational settings, I'll often say you wouldn't punish a physically disabled child for not using the stairs.
Yeah, you wouldn't have. Look, mate, multiple sclerosis is an excuse.
You're just using that as an excuse.
It's your kickoff.
So, again, it's ADHD isn't an excuse; it's a disability.
Yeah.
And for God's sake, Bernard, educate yourself.
Another of the comments I got is, it doesn't define him. Right, so someone said, when talking about my son's ADHD and autism, they said, it doesn't define him. It's like, it's his fucking neurotype, right?
It's his
his brain. So that's just a neurotypical's way of saying that I'm just going to ignore that because it doesn't define the way that I relate to him.
Yes, bizarre,
and it really should, Bernard.
It really, really should.
And again, it's about us making excuses for their behaviour. It's the implication that that's just an excuse for the way that they present.
Yes. And actually, me as the neurotypical, I'm going to focus on those glimmers of behaviour that make me feel comfortable, ignore the child's experience and say, well, it doesn't define him.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Absolutely.
I would love for my kids' neurodivergency not to define them. Like, I hope we get to a time where we're not having to point out this kid's got ADHD and autism, because they're not overwhelmed and they're able to receive the accommodations that they need to be regulated and to kind of function in the society that is not so inherently geared towards neurotypicals.
Yes.
But we're not there yet, so you're not making a point about... to that degree. I would love it to not define him, but at the moment it's really important to highlight that my kids are neurodivergent when other people are having expectations that are unfair and unrealistic.
Yes.
Maybe that's what you say to Bernard in that situation.
See, you're so good. I would just be saying, piss off, Bernard.
I don't say these things. I go away and I go, I should have said
that.
Mark. I should have said that.
God damn it. I'm picturing you standing on street corners, nodding wisely, dispensing this wisdom.
It's like...
when I'm stomping away being a little bit sheepish because I've just shouted, piss off, Bernard.
I do sometimes say stuff to them, but I rarely get people sort of saying this stuff to me. And I do think, and I've covered this in a previous episode, I don't think I get this as much as a male.
Interesting.
And I don't know why that is. But like the vast majority of people that have emailed in are female to say they've had this. And I was speaking to Kate on the Am I Raising an Arsehole episode, who said that she's very often on the receiving end of judgment from other people as a mum. And my theory is that because I'm a dad, they just assume I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anyway. And so there's no hope. There's no...
And not only do they make that assumption, but they also... So what we know is that in the patriarchal society in which we live, men are praised to the hilt for doing things that women are just expected to do.
Yeah.
People will see you out with your 3 hellions... behaving in a feral manner, and they might think, oh, look at him, isn't that lovely, he's taking the kids out, he's helping. You know, rather than actually
one of them's on top of a bus stop.
Oh, isn't he marvellous?
The other one's nicked a pensioner's stick.
And Jay's there with his leather jacket and flick knife.
Now that is a great dad.
Isn't he marvellous? But it diminishes you as well, doesn't it? Because it's like, well, no, actually, you're their fucking parent. You're not doing...
Yeah, exactly. Every parent of neurodivergent kids should be praised for what we do.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yes, and brought cake and cheese.
And occasionally gin. Another of the ones that people, again, is this diminishing their neurodivergency, is they're fine, or they'll be fine, or there's nothing wrong with him.
Oh,
right.
God,
So there's that. Like, have you had that before? I've had that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, from people that I know in my close circle are like, yeah, they're fine. You know, I just, you know, we had a lovely afternoon with him. He's fine. It's like, firstly, I know he is. He's excellent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know where it comes from. I think it's just suggests that maybe we shouldn't worry about them because they're going to be okay in the world. I think maybe that's where it comes from.
Or that we're making a bit of a fuss over nothing and we're silly. And
yeah.
So my experience of that was from my parents, who are both dead now, so I can talk with impunity about how fucking unhelpful they were
Really?
during the period.
No.
Well, so George was diagnosed when he was 3 and he couldn't talk. He had some words, but he couldn't really string them together, and it was really clear that there was something different. My parents' take on that was, there's nothing wrong with him. I just think he'll be fine. Maybe it's because you have music on all the time.
What?
Maybe yeah. So just a stream of utter bullshit around, he's fine, there's nothing wrong, you're just making a fuss.
Yeah.
And then the creme de la resistance was when he finally got diagnosed by Dr. Anne Livesey, who's still around, hugely respected paediatrician, really knows her stuff. My dad said, well, what you've got to remember, Joe, is these are Brighton doctors.
Oh, you're shitting me.
They're
really?
They're just being right on.
Oh, my God. Yeah, this is trendy. It's like your neurodivergency being trendy again. These woke doctors diagnosing on their feelings rather than scientific rigour.
Yeah,
oh, Jesus.
Brighton doctors, Mark. That's what they do.
But there is a lot of this, and I think again part of it, this whole like they're fine, is that partly it's denial. You know, they don't want these kids to be experiencing issues. Partly it's because, again, back to that, like if they're masking around them and they don't see it, then, you know, they don't feel comfortable around you. That's why they're masking, and they're not fine, because I'll play you a recording of what it sounds like when we get home and close the door. And now tell me they're fine. So you hear the sound of breaking glass in the background.
And the screams.
Are they fine now, Bernard?
Does this look fine to you? Does it?
You know, the response there is that I know my kids are fine. My kids are amazing. The problem isn't with them. It's with the fact that society isn't geared towards them. It's not, the problem is with how society is perceiving their behavior. So this comes down to the difference between the medical model of disability and the social model, right?
Yes.
So if people are not familiar with these two terms, the medical model of disability is that they are broken. Our kids are broken because they are not neurotypical. So you're looking at a neurotypical as being the kind of the gold mark standard, and our kids are not behaving like that, so therefore they're defective.
There's something, yeah.
Rather than the social model of disability, which is that they are, in inverted commas, defective because society is not accommodating what they need.
Yes.
So, like, again, sort of, if someone's in a wheelchair, for example, they are disabled because there's not a ramp, right?
Yeah.
If there was a ramp, they would not be disabled because they'd still be able to get into the building.
Exactly.
And that is, what our kids experience on a daily basis of then they don't have the accommodations they need to be on a level playing field with everyone else.
I do think as well, that period where you are waiting for the diagnosis, it's a really strange period, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as much as my child's presenting differently, that also within yourself there's a bit of, am I just making this up? Is this me?
Yeah.
Is this so this, my friend Eve, who I love very, very dearly, said the funniest thing anyone's ever said to me during that period. So George, as I said, he was 3. He was very speech delayed, and I can't really remember the process. It was a long time ago, but there was lots of toing and froing to speech therapists and to this one and the health visitor and just being bombarded with, he might and my friend Eve, I was round with her at hers with George and a newborn Dot, just going, God, this is so hard, mate. All these appointments and no one will tell. She went, there'd better be something wrong with him at the end of all this.
I know exactly what she means, though.
And to this day,
because you have that. Because if they turn around and go, nah, he's fine, mate, it's you.
You'd be like, what the fuck was all this? What the fuck was
like,
what?
No, I think you're the problem. Have you tried a parenting course?
So God bless Eve, and there was something wrong with him at the end of the process, thank goodness. But
I think a lot of parents already know that, but that is hilarious, because I think we all secretly feel that, I think, when the diagnosis process goes on, like, I fucking hope it's this, because otherwise I'm out of ideas.
Yeah. And also, am I just making this up? Am I just exaggerating? And I think for women especially, because we are constantly told by medical professionals, it's probably just anxiety.
Yeah.
That you have this sense of, am I just inventing this? But no, we're not. No, there's definitely something wrong with him.
Another one that someone emailed in was, and I've had this a number of times as well, is, my kid does that. Like when, and again, this is diminishing it, of like, when your child is doing something absolutely insane in a playground, and then, you're standing there with another parent and they're watching them and trying not to be appalled. And then maybe they catch your eye, you see them and they're like, again, they're just like, it's an attempt at solidarity. Oh, my kid does that.
Yeah,
really,
you're not so different.
Really, your child is not eating sand right now. I don't think your child is the same.
Yeah. Your child doesn't even own a leather jacket or a flick knife, so just actually don't come at me with my child does that, because no, they don't.
No, again, it's an attempt at sort of connection, but it is, again, diminishing what our kids are going through.
And trying to... It's similar to, it's the child version of we're all a little bit autistic, isn't it? It's like, my child does that, all kids do that sometimes, so,
But also, as a parent of 3 neurodivergent kids who are all very different, I have no idea what other kids do.
No,
so it may well be that something that I'm like, that's well neurodivergent. Something that I'm going, that's well autistic, is like, actually just, no, it's just a kid.
They
Just
just
kids
do that.
They just
Yeah.
do that. It's like, I have no idea. I don't know. I have nothing to base it on, do I?
And that's where, because what we don't have, either of us, and a lot of the families we know, is a baseline for what a normal household looks like.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're just making it up as we go along.
I would love to have almost like a work experience where I just go and sit in on a neurotypical household and watch what they do. I'd be making notes in the corner.
Yeah.
My God, he just answered to his name straight away. My God, he just tidied his shoes away. What the fuck?
Without crying and throwing them at anyone.
This is unbelievable. He just asked if he could do the washing up. What?
That parent, so that parent just set a boundary and it was respected. Doesn't happen.
So I don't know. Maybe your kid does do that. Maybe I should be listening more. Oh, right. Okay. Well, I can rule that off the list of things that is just definitely autistic then.
Yeah. Who knows? Not us, that's for sure.
Another one. Again, this is sort of part of the tough love input that you get is he's just being fussy. He'll eat when he's hungry.
Oh, no, he won't.
No, this is particularly triggering to anyone whose children have sensitivities around food. It's like, you don't understand the intensity of feeling around food that they don't like, because it's not just, it's not really to my taste. There'll be a texture or a smell or a general unspecified vibe about the food that is causing them not to not fancy it, but to be a hard no. Like, this is red flag food.
Yeah, and they won't eat when they're hungry if their preferred foods aren't available, because it's like the equivalent of saying to a neurotypical, well, look, here's a big bowl of dog crap. You'll eat it when you're hungry. You wouldn't, would you? You'd just be like, I'm not eating that. Yeah. No, I'd starve to death before I ate that.
So again, it's just that diminishing your kid's condition, basically.
A couple of years ago, we went on holiday to Turkey for my sister-in-law's birthday, and it was this gorgeous, all-inclusive place, Mark.
Yeah.
We took our own 2 massive bottles of Heinz tomato ketchup. And then a smaller bottle to decant it in so that we could have it available at every meal.
Lovely.
Dotty at every meal. And the food was incredible. All this amazing meze, and Dot ate chips with Heinz tomato ketchup dispensed from her own bottle.
For every meal?
Every meal. At one point, the waiter touched her bottle. All hell broke loose.
Oh my God. Back off.
Don't touch that!
Like Gollum with the ring.
So yeah, the suggestion that they will eat when they're hungry. No.
Yeah, you don't get it. No, he won't. But let's not put this to the test. Just trust me. Just
because they will starve to death right in front of you.
And he'll be like, you see, Bernard, you were wrong.
Yeah, Bernard.
I don't want to get to that point just to prove a point. Another big category of some of the ignorant comments that people come out with are people who simply don't understand neurodivergency, but they think they do. This is the thing. It's like just throwing stupid shit out there. And one of the ones I had multiple entries for was, they'll just grow out of it, though, right?
What?
Yeah. So I had, they will grow out of it. He'll grow out of it. Wow. Do you think he'll grow out of it? So like 4 different people entered this, and someone said they spoke to their dad on the phone about the fact that their son was doing well with his readings and his spellings, and his response was, do you think he's growing out of it?
Oh dear God.
It's just like, no, Dad, he's still autistic.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. The clue is in the diagnostic criteria, which is a lifelong condition.
Yeah. And that's the thing, with anyone who feels that they can cure it, it's just, no, it's not. It's a thing, and some things can be cured, but this is a neurotype. This is the way the brain is wired. That's not going to change. You're not going to flip their head open and start rewiring it till they become neurotypical.
I'm a mad scientist.
nor should you want to.
No.
When he says are they growing out of it? No, what they might be doing is learning to regulate themselves better, or learning to request accommodations that will help them reduce their triggers, but they're not growing out of it.
No.
Like, it's just a fundamental part of who they are. So,
Yeah.
just as they're not going to grow out of having brown eyes.
Yes.
It's
No,
just a part of
it's
them.
just ingrained. It's, yeah.
But that comment just highlights the lack of understanding around neurodivergency that is kind of rife.
Yeah.
And the more we talk about it, I guess the more people will understand that it's no Bernard.
No,
He's
no
not growing out
Bernard.
of it.
No. Do you think you're going to grow out of being an ignorant twat, Bernard? Because that would be great.
Another one you get, a cracking one that loads of people have emailed in. He doesn't look autistic.
What?
Have you had
What
that?
does that look like?
Exactly. How should an autistic look? I don't understand. Because that really speaks to what their prejudices are. Right?
Yeah.
They have a preconception of what an autistic person should look like. And as we know, it presents so differently depending on who you are. So it's not going to look one way or the other. The only potential look that I could see someone having and thinking, yeah, they're probably autistic, is if they're wearing Crocs and a onesie.
Yes.
That's the one. It's like,
Yeah.
right, I can look at that and pretty safely assume that person is
Yeah.
autistic. That's pretty standard uniform
Especially
for
if
my
it's
lot.
winter and they're wearing the Crocs.
Yeah. So if I ever see a child in the wild who's got Crocs and a onesie on, I think that's a fairly safe bet. But apart
One
from
of
that,
us.
there's no way. There's no way of actually telling. So it's a very ignorant comment, and maybe that's as you flip it back on them and go, oh, so what do you imagine an autistic look like?
What's that? What is it that you're hoping to see here? It's Thomas the Tank Engine collection. Here you go. I did once have a girl, and love her, she was a bit thick, and she said it was a friend of a friend, quite a young girl, and she looked at George, and I could see her like just trying to weigh it up, trying to look at this like 7-year-old who was bouncing off the walls, and she turned to me and went, Joe, is he just a really big toddler? What? But I couldn't be angry. I couldn't be angry because, as I say, she was just a bit thick.
Yeah,
and just trying to
yeah,
understand what she was looking at.
Yeah. What am I seeing here? Well, it's always better to ask questions than suggest a theory in that situation. Oh, another one that people get, and again, this is down to people having a preconception of what autism is and then meeting a child that does not meet that preconception and then just going, I can't compute, right? Is, oh, but your son talks and he's so clever.
Oh, dear God.
And I had a few of these. Oh, he's autistic, but he can talk. Or the other one is, but he seems intelligent.
Wow.
It's just like, so again, there's this misconception that autism and ADHD are this one thing, this monolithic presentation that everyone has or they don't have. And if your child doesn't fit into that narrow perception of what this random person thinks neurodivergency is, then they can't be neurodivergent.
Couldn't possibly be. Yeah, I think it's interesting that everyone thinks they know what autism is. And what we know as parents is that very few people, unless they have lived experience, really truly understand what neurodivergence is about.
Yeah.
So they'll come at you with these utterly daft assumptions.
And the other thing is that, again, it's sort of almost questioning the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Like, are you sure? Yeah, it's like, I mean, a 4-year waiting list and hundreds of hours of fucking form filling and several experts,
but they are
confirm that I am sure.
They are bright doctor's marks, so just bear that in mind.
Yeah, that is true. They just lit a candle and saw,
Yeah, they wafted some crystals around the room.
I went, 100%.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
It is frustrating, but again, it's an opportunity to educate and go, well, obviously not all autistics are non-verbal.
Yeah.
And not all autistics are flapping their hands and spinning around.
And not all people who are non-verbal are non-understanding.
Yes.
Actually, child who, your neurotypicals are categorising that child as being low-functioning severe.
Yeah, he can hear you.
He can understand every fucking word you're saying, so enough of it.
Pipe
You
down.
know that? Yeah.
Another of these, again, this misconceptions is about ADHD. How can she have ADHD? That's for boys. It's like, fuck's sake. Wow. I mean, like, you know, again, questioning it, I guess. And just like the confidence with which people proclaim their ignorance is staggering to me sometimes. Because if I don't know something about a thing and someone's telling me and I just wouldn't say
You'd listen,
it.
yeah.
I'd listen. I wouldn't be so bold as to go, well, that can't be true because this. I'd go, oh, really? Tell me more. But this is the thing about these ignorant comments that we get. They're very confidently ignorant, aren't they?
Confidently wrong. There's nothing finer than someone who is both confident and wrong.
Yeah. Again, it's an opportunity to educate them and go, well, no, obviously... You know,
or
you just set them straight.
Tell them to piss off.
Well, you could, depending on
whether
it's me or you, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Different approaches, same outcome.
And anyone listening, both are valid.
Yeah,
they're equally as valid, depending on your tolerance levels. But just set them straight and just go. Well, obviously, ADHD is prevalent in boys and girls. It's just that it was only boys that were studied in the early days, so they thought that that's how it presented. Now we know a lot more about masking and a lot more about how it happens with different people. We know that it's a lot more prevalent than we first thought.
Yeah.
Over to you, Bernard, to do your own research.
I think maybe I've also got 53 years of listening to mansplaining under my belt.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe that affects your tolerance levels.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's
that
true.
I've had absolutely everything explained to me my whole life. Yeah. And I just don't have any tolerance for it anymore.
I can totally see.
The thing I found that really winds them up is if you just look at them and go, nah, you're wrong. Sisters, I've discovered the key. Nah, you're wrong. Anyway, back to the actual topic of the podcast.
Another one that a listener emailed in, and I think I've had this before, but it was really in the early days. What's wrong with him? You had that one. Like, where they go, he's autistic. Well, what's wrong with him? It's like nothing. That's just who he is. There's nothing wrong with him. Like, it's just who he is. What is wrong is that you are ignorant.
See, you're coming over to my side. Come to the dark side.
There's nothing wrong with him. Fuck off.
Yes.
There's everything wrong with you.
Yes.
I understand again where this is coming from, because they're like, well, he's disabled, but I can't see what's disabled. So tell me what's disabled about him. And again, this is back to the medical model versus the social model of disability of, what's wrong with him is that society doesn't accommodate his needs. So what's wrong with him? Society.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
That's the answer.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And then just move on swiftly. The final one, rounding up the misunderstandings of what neurodivergency is, oh, your son is autistic. I bet he's a maths genius, isn't he?
I love these ones.
Oh, dude. Because, it's the old, that savant stereotype that your child must be like hyper gifted at something. Rain Man has a fucking lot to answer for, doesn't it?
I know. We're not going to Vegas, Bernard, especially not on George's talent, which is drawing incredibly detailed penises on birthday cards. I mean, the level of detail is astonishing. Any card from George, you can guarantee he'll have drawn a really detailed penis on it. I mean, if any listeners have any ideas how we can make money off of that, do please let me know, because at the minute I'm a bit... not going to Vegas on that, George, are we?
Yeah. This misunderstanding, I think, is prevalent. Again, they are trying to look on the positive side, aren't they? They're trying to go, oh, well, obviously that's rubbish that they're autistic, so there's got to be an upside. Maybe it's this. It's like, no,
Have you got maths autism?
Yeah.
No.
It's like, if my kids could access lessons at school, maybe they would be maths geniuses, but that
we'll
is
never
not
know.
a given with my lot. It's not looking likely from what I've seen so far. Yeah, it's trying to look on the positives, but from a place of deep ignorance.
Exactly. And a lot of it is people are well-meaning, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's a well-meaning comment. Oh, what's he brilliant at? But it's just exhausting.
Yeah, it really is.
And they really don't want to see the penis drawings.
No, you should carry one with you.
All
No,
time.
okay. He's not gifted at maths, but do you want to know what he is
Look at
gifted
this.
at? Look at the veins. I'll sell it if you want. This is how we monetize his gift.
They're amazing. Amazing.
One that you touched on a little bit earlier that you get from a lot of people who are ignorant around neurodiversity is the misguided sympathy element of that. You know, the classic head to one side and that's a shame, isn't it? And the other one that a few people emailed in was, I don't know how you do it.
Oh, God.
Or I couldn't do that, mate. Or how do you cope is another one. There's lots of these ones, which is...
Yes.
Oh, this one really gets to me because what are my options, dude?
Yeah.
What are you suggesting here? Let's follow this to its logical conclusion. Do I just get rid of my child? Do I just abandon him by the side of the road and drive off?
What is the refund policy on this? Because I seem to have been sent one that's not working properly. I'd like to send it back, please.
I don't know where to start with that comment from them. You know, because in a way, again, it's probably meant as a compliment. In a weird way of like, you know, that they're acknowledging it's hard and that we are somehow managing to cope. But like, they're like, nah, I'm out. Like, I couldn't do that. It's like,
Ooh, that looks really difficult.
you know.
Me and Doc call them the tilty head people because they always tilt their head to one side. And I've had you're so patient with them. I mean, sometimes I am just screeching, will you stop it?
Yeah, it's like you're testing my patience right now, Bernard.
Yeah. And it's the notion that by saying, oh, you are marvellous, I couldn't do it, that they've somehow helped, that they've somehow assisted. So how about, instead of saying that, they could say, oh, do you want me to clean your bathroom? Because I can see that you're up to your fucking eyeballs.
Yeah.
You know, actually do something rather than...
Yeah, because it's very much standing on the sidelines.
Yes.
Yeah, and sort of from afar going, well, I'm not going to actually fucking help.
Yeah, but I'll say, oh, you are marvellous.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, you know. And it's like, well, yeah, neither do I sometimes.
No,
if I'm being honest, sometimes I have no idea how this ship is not sinking. But it's but
somehow.
You know what? Something is working. So, you know, let's not pay attention to that. Because otherwise it's all going to come down in pieces.
Yeah, like some parents run a tight ship. I run a pirate ship. There's swearing, drinking and occasional mutiny. But somehow our ship continues to sail.
Another sort of equivalent to this is the misguided empathy, right? So it's not misguided sympathy, it's the empathy. And this is where someone tries to empathize with you by going, well, my brother's cleaner's son-in-law has a neighbour whose grandson is autistic, so I completely understand.
So I really do get it, yeah.
It's like, no, you fucking don't. You have no idea. Like,
you have not a clue, my
Unless
friend.
you've been in the trenches with anybody who's neurodivergent, you know, you might think you know from anecdotal evidence, but unless you have lived our experience, not even necessarily experience with just that presentation of autism, right? Because this is the thing, like neurodivergency as a whole presents in so many different ways. I don't feel like I need to experience exactly that type of neurodivergency to be able to understand, because so much of what surrounds it, the social isolation and the exhaustion and the frustration and the stupid comments like this one, right? That's universal. Doesn't matter what flavour of neurodivergency. If you don't have any of that experience, then it's a different world, isn't it?
Yeah, you really haven't. And that's why the camaraderie of other parents in the same boat is so important. Just that being around people who get it, who are not going to suggest a wackadoodle cure or diet or have you tried a routine, but who are just going to sit down next to you and go, Yeah, it is a bit shit sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all it needs, right?
That's more helpful, isn't it?
Another one that we got quite a lot of people emailing in about was, but everyone I know is just like me and I can't possibly be autistic.
I love those.
That one. Or,
I love those.
but I do that and I'm not autistic.
And it's like, you just side-eye them going,
About that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you brought it up before me, but you might want to just,
Because not everyone is ready to hear that, you know.
No, exactly. But a good response to that one, well, I do that and I'm not autistic, is you just go, prove it. And then you whip out an autism assessment test.
Good.
And
That's
go,
good,
just
Mark.
fill these out, because they are like online. You can do it pretty quickly, right? I go, yeah, okay. Well, let's see. I'm interested. Put your money where your mouth is, Bernard.
Prove it.
If you look at it from their perspective, right, they're seeing your kid's behaviour and they are 100% convinced that they're neurotypical because they've never questioned it. So they look at your kid's behaviour and go, well, that's the same as me.
Yeah.
Instead of questioning their neurotype, they diminish your child's neurotype.
Yeah,
Go,
because it's so ingrained in them, isn't it? And there must be so many adults walking around for whom it has never crossed their mind, come onto their radar, that actually there's a reason.
There's been a huge spike in the late diagnosed neurodivergence because they've seen these behaviours in their children and recognised it in themselves. And then going, oh, okay.
Hang on a minute.
Like, I would say most of the guests that I've spoken to on Neuroshambles have had similar experiences. Most of the guests that I've spoken to on Neuroshambles are neurodivergent in some way, I think. And have reached that understanding from looking at their kids and going,
And do you think that is more true for women and AFAB people who it would never have crossed their minds that they might be autistic, because the definition of autistic was very narrowly based on boys and the male presentation.
I'm sure. And also, and it's sticky ground sort of lumping this in with gender, but there is a more female presentation of autism, which is more masking, more high masking.
Definitely.
And again, that's another episode that I will get into. That's a big old episode.
There are some really clever people researching that there's actually, rather than autism, there's autisms, and there's different phenotypes.
Okay.
And completely different presentations, which is why that female presentation has been missed. But they're much cleverer than me.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I like the best response to that is like, prove it, and then whip out a test. Just whip out a test.
So now you're telling me that I have to have a test with me at all times. One of George's penis pictures. Anything else I need
just
to be
Just
carrying?
a big backpack of fidget toys.
Hang on a minute.
You can just get it out, get it up on your phone. Go, let me text you. Save it in your phone. Let me text you. Just fill this out. I mean, I'm curious now. Because, obviously I don't think you're autistic. Obviously.
Oh,
no.
Good.
No, I mean, if someone... This is the thing. I am pretty convinced that I can spot neurodivergent people now from a fucking mile off.
Definitely.
And a lot of the time, I've had it quite a lot recently where someone has come up to me and said, I think I might be neurodivergent. My mate said this to me recently. She phoned me and went, I think I might have ADHD. And I assumed that she knew.
Yeah, I've done that.
So I went, oh, you're fucking riddled with it.
You're fucking riddled with it.
And fortunately, she found it funny and was okay with that. I should have been a bit more, you know. Oh, well, it's interesting you say that, because maybe. No, I mean, it's a good friend, so I could say that. But yeah, I think I've said it a few times. It's like, yeah, you definitely are.
Oh, you do, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I think there is an awkwardness at times that comes from, so you and I and lots of the listeners, I suspect, are very positive about neurodivergence. We don't see it as being less than, we see it as being different. So when someone says, oh, I think I might be, it doesn't cross my mind to
Yeah.
be subtle.
Yeah.
I just go, yeah, of course you fucking are. What?
Yeah, get on board. Yeah, absolutely. Because to some people, it's seen as a bit of a death sentence, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like, oh
yeah.
no, I'm
Oh,
I'm
no.
neurodivergent. It's like,
I've got
sweet.
autism.
Well, on the positive side, you're good at maths.
See? It's not all doom and gloom.
We're going to round off this section by looking at what I've defined as the completely batshit mental stuff
Brilliant.
that people have said. Because I had a few where they don't fit into any category at all. One of them was actually from your own daughter,
My
Dottie,
girl.
right? He sent a message saying, a favourite of mine was when I was about 14, a girl at my school told me I should smoke weed to lower my autism. She actually used the word lower.
Lower. Just it will lower your autism, yeah?
What the fuck?
Well,
Like,
I mean...
I think she's confusing autism for Parkinson's disease.
But, I mean, to be honest, and again, it's a whole other discussion, but for some people, smoking weed might reduce their anxiety, which might... But, yeah, no, suffice it to say, we did not dash out and buy a load of weed on the basis of that grand advice. And the girl later got excluded from school for bringing a knife in, so we never got to follow up on.
So she had the bad autism then.
She had the bad autism. I don't even know if she was autistic. I have a feeling she knew she had an aunt's friend's cousin who was autistic and had said, weed, that will lower it.
It's a very interesting thing because I can't see it working. I mean, it might have some positives. It might mean they'd eat more. That's a positive potentially, but I definitely can't see it improving social communication. I mean, they're struggling as it is to have a balanced conversation with someone, so that's definitely not going to help. But there is, I think, this inherent problem with thinking that autism can be lowered, I guess. You know, just lower your... Can you just lower your... Just turn your autism down a bit.
Yeah.
Dial it down, I guess. I don't know. It's... It can reduce some of the symptoms, I guess.
Yes.
Like you're saying. So some of the anxiety, potentially, but it's not. It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. It's a really bad idea.
Yeah. So another one of the completely mental ones was autism is a cult.
What?
A cult. Someone who's obviously had enough of all this autism bullshit. I'll tell you what it is. This is Bernard speaking. I'll tell you what it is, love. It's a cult, which is frankly insane. Of like, who's the cult leader?
When are we going to get our
Chris
robes?
Packham. It's Chris Packham he's the leader, and everyone else is just following behind the Packham. If you look at what the definition of a cult is, autism doesn't follow any of those patterns. A cult would imply some kind of homogeny of thought, right?
Yes.
Some alignment of thinking along the same lines, a desire to move with the herd. That is not like any neurodivergent I have ever met in my life.
We are the opposite of a cult.
I genuinely believe that autistics are the least likely to be involved in a cult.
Exactly.
If you think about it, because they tend to see through the bullshit.
Yeah.
They need proof. They question everything.
Yeah.
So they've got no inbuilt desire to blend in with what other people are doing. Can you imagine getting a bunch of autistics together and encouraging them to drink the same Kool-Aid?
It wouldn't happen.
No.
There'd be at least one going, this is green. I cannot drink anything green. I specifically said I need red.
Jay would be like, this is too sweet.
No.
You know,
No.
and Chris Packham would be going, drink it up, Jay. Drink it up.
What if Chris Packham hears this and he knows we're on to him?
Oh my
yeah,
God.
Packham, we've got your number.
We got your number.
Trying to start a cult.
The final one in the batshit mental one. There's a lot to unpack here. But here it is. In all its, just verbatim, in all its glory. My narcissistic biological dad told me he had a master's degree in autism and that he had cured 200 autistic kids, so I should just let him handle my son.
What?
Needless to say, he doesn't have any master's degrees. He doesn't even know 200 autistic people, and we don't talk to him anymore.
Oh my God.
I was like that. It was just beautiful. It was the kind of thing that you just let it wash over you. It was like,
You can't respond to that because there's just so much batshittery contained within that one statement. Where would you even begin to unpick it and respond?
like the dad does not need to be concerning themselves with his son's issues.
No.
He's got bigger fish to fry with his own shit going on.
Maybe he's a cult leader. Has our listener thought about that? Maybe this is some kind of autistic cult that their bio dad has quietly formed and started curing people.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know, Mark, is what I'm saying.
I would say that anyone who believes they can cure autism and is trying to convince you to let him test his theories on your child can fuck right off.
They can get in the fucking sea.
But it sounds like a listener is a step ahead of us because we don't talk to him anymore. Just the final sentence.
I think that's a very sensible choice.
Neurodiversity Champions.
So I think we covered the positives in the last episode. So I don't think we need to go further into that. But let's look at Neurodiversity Champions. Because there's always some people or some organisations that are fully deserving of a shout out for the wonderful work they do in the world of neurodivergency. Have you got any for us, Joe?
Oh, I do. So last week, for my sins, as we say, I took 18 autistic kids aged between 10 and 15. Did I?
So good.
So Bowls Outdoor Centre, you are incredible. That is what inclusion looks like.
Okay.
They made so many adjustments.
Amazing.
They went above and beyond. What inclusivity looks like for certainly the kids I had with me is flexibility. Just that ability to say, all right, yeah, that was the plan. We won't do that now. We'll do this because I can see that these kids are struggling. So Bowls Outdoor Centre, you batted it out of the park.
Amazing. That's great because getting 18 different neurodivergent humans aligned in anything is going to be tricky. So if you even half managed to do that, then that's incredible.
Came back with the exact same number of kids I arrived with, which is quite the achievement. Quite the achievement there.
Awesome. I'll put a link to them in the show notes in case anyone else fancies
It's a
doing.
fantastic.
Where are they based?
It was near Tunbridge Wells,
Okay.
and incredible place. Highly recommended.
Brilliant. Okay, well, if anyone else wants to get involved, I'll put the link in the show notes.
Tiny epic wins!
Okay, it's Tiny Epic Wins time. These are the moments that in our neurodivergent families are seen as massive wins when to a neurotypical, no big deal. Have you got any Tiny Epic Wins,
I want
Joe?
to hear yours.
Okay, I got quite a fun one. I had a barbecue recently with Jay's friend, who he's known all his life, and she came over with her parents, who are very good friends of ours, and I was at the barbecue. I was on the grill, and I had to. I'm not letting my kids do it. Let's face it.
No.
And I'm a solo parenting, so what are my options?
Fair enough.
I overheard Jay talking to to his friend's mum, Sophie, who's wonderful, and he walked up to her, and it was almost like he was attempting a neurotypical conversation, like he'd been studying and he was testing it out. You know when you're practicing a new language,
yeah.
and then you have this stock question, and then you test it out. It was like that, because I overheard him approach Sophie, and he went, "Sophie, remind me what you do in your job again."
Oh, that's so precious.
Have you ever known Jay to ask you a question in all of this time, right?
No.
So it was almost like he wanted to test it out, and I heard it.
Oh.
I nearly dropped my bangers.
Were you just waiting for what's he going to say next?
I sort of stopped and I turned and I sort of earwigged and I listened in a little bit. And so Sophie told him she works in the NHS. And then he had a follow-up question, right? So he said, oh, what does the NHS stand for?
Really good question.
And then Sophie said, I think he knew the answer because then he had some points lined up about the USA not having free healthcare, right? So I don't know if it was genuinely something that he sort of planned out. I'm really intrigued. It was so out of the blue. But he then said, oh, well, you basically have to be a millionaire to receive decent healthcare in America. So it was like making a political point as well. I don't know what went on in that brief moment. He's not shown any attempts to ask me a question about stuff since or anyone else. But for that little pocket in time, it was almost like he was testing something out. He was doing a social experiment to see how it felt. And it was fascinating.
And it sounds like he was successful as well. Props to your
like
mate
Sophie.
Yeah. But just, and having that little bit of success in like, oh yeah, I can conversate. I've got this. That's incredible for Jay as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and Sophie loved it. He was charming and funny, and so I mean, Sophie already knows him. She's known him his whole life, so she gets on really well with him, which is lovely. But it was, I'm counting that as a tiny epic win. He asked someone a question.
What the flip?
What the flip moments now? We have, I've got a couple this week, and these are ones that happened in the last week. And one of them was that I made churros for the kids. I decided, we weren't leaving the house. I was like, well, let's do something in the house. Let's make churros. I love a churro. I thought
middle
I'd give
class
it a go.
donuts.
Exactly. What can go wrong, right? And they are, just for the record, a real fucking faff. There's a lot of work involved, and I don't think the faff to reward ratio was high enough, as evidenced by Jay's response. Right, when I said, how are the churros, Jay? And he went, the churros suck. That was his opener, right? And then he went, they have the texture of a worm, maybe a maggot.
How does he know what texture a worm or a maggot might have? Maybe a maggot.
I'm not falling on either side of the fence here. I'm just like, but either way, it's not an endorsement of my churros, I think is the thing it says.
Okay,
I mean, I ate them and they seem fine.
Yeah. His choice, his loss. I love it.
But yeah, I just like, you've got, okay, thanks for your input. I'll feed it back to the chef.
Who's just spent 2 hours making this really fiddly flipping recipe for you to great
to turn your nose up at. And then the only other one is from India this week, where I think we were trying to mobilize to get out of the house. I think we were going swimming or something, and she'd got a onesie on already, and I was like, right, can you get your shoes on now, please? We need to go. And she went, I've done one thing you asked. What makes you think I'd do another thing? What gives you the impression that this is compliance right now? I don't know what I was thinking, India. No idea.
She makes a compelling point, Mark. She had done one thing. I think
What makes you think of all of your experiences of me, what makes you think that I'm going to do 2 things in a row? So, yeah, fair enough. Well, just get into the car without your shoes on and bring them with me.
Fine.
That's how you deal with this now, isn't it? It's like, okay, fair point.
Okay.
PDA is a wonderful drug.
It's a joy. It's a joy.
Okay, so that is it for this double whammy of tackling ignorance. Part 2 is now vanquished. And Joe, thank you so much. It's been so fun to just unpick all of this with you.
It has been marvellous. I've enjoyed it.
It's been really fun. So thank you to you, Joe, and also obviously to the listeners for emailing stuff in and putting messages in the socials to give us lots of things to talk about. I might do this kind of thing again, not on tackling ignorance, but I just like, the listeners are an untapped resource here of the crazy shit that they're all dealing with. So I think, I mean, we're sort of coming towards the end of season 2 of Neuroshambles, but for season 3, which I'm going to be planning in the summer, I think there's definitely going to be more opportunity to reach out for people to suggest their things. Because
Yeah.
So look out for that in season 3, because I've really enjoyed this. If you want to email any of your comments or your thoughts, then you can email me at hello@neuroshambles.com, or you can contact me via the socials on Instagram or Facebook or Threads or TikTok. But I think that's it for now. All that remains for me to say is have a nice life.